live.
Oh, we're going live now.
Hi, this is Gail Bernbaber. Can someone explain to us what it means to be going live? Maybe I missed that. I tuning in.
Yes, we're going to be, so technically this meeting is open to the public.
I see. So, okay, so there may be people that might want to testify or join us, and a link was made available somehow on a website or, okay.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I would say most people are in. You can.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining the Hawaii Hemp Task Force meeting. My name is June Tulio, and I'm the meeting facilitator for this task force. So I would like to call the meeting of the task force to order at 12:39 p.m. On Wednesday, July 24, 2024. So before we start, I would like to call on Stephen Dalton to inform the public how to participate in this hybrid meeting, which can be accessed in person, by video conference, or telephone.
Good afternoon, everyone. For internet, telephone, and in-person access, when testifying, you will be asked to identify yourself and the organization, if any, that you represent. Each testifier will be limited to 2 minutes of testimony per agenda item. If internet and phone connection is lost, the meeting may reconvene when either audio-visual communication or audio-only communication is established within 30 minutes. The public may access the reconvened meeting by clicking the link again or calling one of the numbers provided in the agenda. If it's not possible to reconvene the meeting within 30 minutes after an interruption, then check the agency's website for information as to whether the meeting will be continued to an alternative date and time, or the meeting may be terminated. So for those of you as an attendee, your microphone will be automatically muted during the meeting unless you are providing testimony. For each agenda item you wish to testify on, please click the raise hand button found on the Zoom screen. The task force staff will individually enable each testifier to unmute their microphone. When recognized by the task force meeting facilitator, please unmute your microphone before speaking and mute your microphone after you finish speaking in order to prevent audio feedback. Let's see. So for those of you that are joining in or calling in, I see there's one person who's used the phone to call in. When the task force meeting facilitator asks for public testimony, you may indicate you want to testify by entering star and then 9 on your phone's keypad. After entering star and then 9, a voice prompt will let you know the host of the meeting has been notified. When recognized by the meeting facilitator, you may unmute yourself by pressing star and then 6 on your phone. A voice prompt will let you know that you are unmuted. Once you are finished speaking, please enter the star and then 6 again to mute yourself. I believe that's it.
Thank you, Stephen. So moving on. So I will take a roll call. I'm requesting the members to please acknowledge and say present when your name is called. So the task force members include Gail Bernbaber of Hawaii Royal Hemp.
Present.
Robert Benz of Hawaii Sustainable Farm. Robert. Next is Tai Cheng of Hamptuary, Hawaii.
Present.
Thank you. Jared Dalgamuni of Hawaiian Choice. Thank you, Jared. Janine Holstein of Maui Majesty.
I'm here, thank you.
Thank you. Gloria Ilagan of Mauna Kea Trading.
I'm here present. Thank you.
Kelly King of Pacific Biodiesel. Kyle Young of Hawaii Gold Farms.
Present.
Ching Lee of University of Hawaii at Manoa. Michele Matsuda of Kolele. Jediah McRoberts of Hawaii Hemp.
Present.
So Liliana Napoleon of Napoleon Gentry.
Here, present.
Thank you. Brittany Neal of Hawaiian Hempstead.
Present.
Thank you. Grant Overton of Archipelago. Greg Smith of Earth Matters. Joseph Smith of Hemp Hawaii, Home Hawaii. Then Rusty Tap of Kamina Ventures.
Present.
Scotty Wong of Ohana Hui Ventures.
Present.
Robert Benz is trying to get in via phone. He just texted
So we
me.
have a quorum established.
Oh, yes, I was just going to, when you were done going through with these, I was going to allow the person on the phone to speak. They could hit star and then 6 to unmute themselves, and they can tell us who they are.
Hi, this is Robert Benz from Hawaii Sustainable Farms. I clicked the link that I normally click and it didn't admit me, so not sure what was going on because I was trying to join the way I normally join and it didn't open. It said the meeting had not started yet.
Okay, you can stay on the phone like you are now, or you can try joining with the link again. Either is okay.
And I can just, cause earlier on the phone, I was pressing *6 and it wouldn't let me unmute.
Right, I just unmuted you, so yeah.
So I can just keep pressing *6 to mute and unmute.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I'm present. Wow.
Thank you. So our quorum is established. So we go to the second item in the agenda today, which is the presentation by Task Force Member Gail Byrne-Baber regarding the role of the Hawaii Hemp Farmers Association, or HHFA, in the hemp industry in Hawaii. I would like to turn it over to Gail Baber.
Yeah, aloha. Do you have my PowerPoint presentation that I sent via email? Or do you want it? Okay,
So
so,
I just made it so you can share it, or I can pull it up, either, whichever is easier.
okay, well, if you want to pull it up, that's fine. And then I'll just say next slide, or it'll be obvious. We'll work together on that.
Okay.
Is that easy for you to do? I mean, I could share too, whatever you want.
If you have it right there, you could go ahead and share it.
All right, let me see. So you already gave me some controls. Okay. Oh, gotta zoom out to get the share going. Huh. Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, are you guys seeing a PowerPoint presentation right now? It's slide?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great, thanks. Well, we'll keep it really brief because I think most folks here are at least familiar with the name and have probably met some of the board members or participated in some way or another with the Hawaii Hemp Farmers Association. And if you have any questions further after this meeting or whenever, you can reach out to me personally, any of the board members that are here present on the task force, or through the website at info@hawaiihempfarmersassociation.org. And our website is hawaiihempfarmersassociation.org. Just real quickly, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization that was founded in 2018 to further the multifaceted hemp industry here in Hawaii. And we are becoming more and more multifaceted, which is wonderful. And we advocate for the needs of the industry, all sectors, including or especially farmers. It was farmers that helped found the industry, pilot folks that were member of the pilot program, and our good friends on Kauai that were the founding members or the founders of the Hawaii Hemp Farmers Association. You know, I just want to take a quick moment to reflect on the long history that hemp has here in Hawaii. And I think a lot of us here know that, but we are unique, honestly, especially compared to many of the Western states. Obviously, the 13 colonies all grew hemp and throughout the country for a long time, but Hawaii was growing it too, you know, way over 100 years ago during the whaling times is my understanding, for sails and rope. And we had some real pioneers here in the state. There were farmers that were looking at ways to move Hawaii towards greater sustainability in terms of multiple industrial opportunities and for food, but also looking at ways to replace industrial agriculture at the time when all the sugar canes plantations were going down, is something that might be more viable and provide a lot of opportunity for Hawaii. And so one of those was those farmers came together and founded the Hawaii Hemp Council in 1992. In 2000, actually, a hemp pilot study was authorized by the Hawaii State Legislature, but later abandoned. And that's doing great part to the work of, most people here probably remember Representative Thielen, who literally worked for decades to help get what we have in place with regard to hemp industry. We all owe her a debt of gratitude. And if you go back through the legislative archives, you will see hemp bills introduced every single year, or at least almost, I think, every single year since the late 90s. And you don't see that history necessarily in other states. So there's been a long time advocacy here. And it did originate, a lot of it, from farmers. There was a real concentrated effort 2013 to 2015 to get some legislation passed. You know, I should have taken out coordinated by Clarence Baber there twice. He's my husband. This isn't a plug. This is a slide from another show I had. So excuse me if the name Baber there is popping up, but he certainly has been a pioneer here as well as other folks here in the meeting today. In 2015, there was a pilot study to look at, like, before the legislature moved forward and allowing us to have our pilot program, will hemp grow here? Well, we already knew that. Been growing here, you know, decades and hundreds of years before, but the pilot study was, of course, very effective in showing that it will grow. And in fact, one of the things they looked at was, will it remove pollutants from the soil? And it had 100% removal of atrazine during that study. And that pilot or that study was under the direction of Dr. Coe, if I recall correctly. And of course, the U.S. Farm Bill passed, allowing us to have research programs. Finally, in 2016, we got our legislation passed. We were still pretty early in the country in terms of getting this legislation passed, but it took us a couple of years to get our pilot program up and growing. And then 2018, the USDA Farm Bill comes and normalizes things more. 2020, we were moved under the USDA for growing and production purposes. And of course, between 2016 and 2024, there's a lot of drama in the legislature and trying to figure out how to get a viable hemp industry growing. And with regard to going back to the Hawaii Hemp Farmers Association, you know, the activities that we primarily focused on have been sharing knowledge regarding farming and processing and best practices amongst our membership and in our community, and obviously with a lot of politicians. A number of us have hosted tours on our farm and even outreach to, in our case, we outreached our local law enforcement, invited them down to the farm to show them what, you know, that we're growing vegetables too, and to normalize the whole thing. we've built relationships, the organization has throughout the state, but also nationally and internationally. Part of that is to help us build an industry here, and also to make sure our understanding of things we're grounded in experiences of what people are experiencing in other places. Bo Whitney is a common name that's been batted around here in the hemp task force. He's the leading hemp economist, really in the world, gathers the most data, and has been a big help to us, writing a couple of white papers to the legislature. A number of us have relationships with the president of the Hemp Building Industry Association for the US. Doug Fine is a hemp personality that's been a huge advocate here in Hawaii. We've even had speaking on some of our hemp panels that we've had throughout the year in different capacities. The former director of the USDA, who is the assistant director of the USDA, was heading up the hemp program. So so we're young, but I think our network has been wide and helpful in helping us understand all aspects of the industry. There have been a number of conventions, not just through the Farmers Union, but in other places that we've participated in, help bring speakers together from all sectors, not just cannabinoids, to talk about what's going on here in Hawaii, but also what's going on with tribes in the Midwest and the Northwest, and what's going on in key states like Colorado. Obviously, we've been involved in outreach and trying to share what's going on in industry with the legislature, because we've been so heavily impacted by really poor legislation and rules that were incredibly onerous compared to other states. And in fact, this task force is a result of recommendation that came from our organization, because we really wanted to further and facilitate greater conversations between folks in the industry, but also within the agencies, because a lot of times we end up, the only time the agencies have the opportunities to communicate with us is during the legislature, when they're kind of forced to. We had planned last year to do a few things and then got sidetracked again. We weren't going to hopefully be involved too much in outreach and education legislature last year, but we were. So what we talked about doing over a year ago was getting the hemp industry together in a more kind of roll up your sleeves way, potentially on Oahu or Big Island, where we have more licensees, farmers, and then inviting in other folks, processors and value added people. We still hope we can do that. It won't be this year. It'll be in 2025. The other thing we'd like to do is launch a platform for Hawaii farmer grown hemp products, to cut through all the noise out there with regard to hemp products, not just CBD. Of course, the noise is huge out there in the marketplace. A lot of branding that's not necessarily Hawaii based, but the resident, we have a very large number of residents that are spending money on hemp products, and many of those folks, as the Department of Agriculture knows well, their campaigns on buy local have been very successful. Why residents are willing to pay up to 20 to 25% more for when they know when the products are marked that they're Hawaii grown, they're willing to pay more for that. And I think that's something that this is something this organization can help with, is really identifying what products out there, whether it's hempcrete or whether it's a CBD product or a fiber product or bedding for animals. We'd like to be that resource so folks can come and support farmer grown products, and then also products that are made by folks here in Hawaii. There's still a huge need for outreach to the general public on hemp. I mean, I think all of us know in this task force, especially agency people, the amount of understanding regarding hemp is exponential compared to what it was 2 years ago and certainly 8 years ago, but there's still a lot of opportunity out there. And because we are a nonprofit, we have opportunity for some free public service announcements. So we hope to be doing that. Actually, we could this fall. And I think it's going to be critical to potentially partnering with Department of Health, as we have just recently learned that there are some new rules coming out that are heavily going to impact the hemp industry. So being able to communicate that proactively out to folks is going to be important. Yeah, I guess that's it. Just let us know how we can better serve you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And that's a hemp car down there in the corner, made in Europe.
Thank you, Gail.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. If there is a testimony from the public, again, we remind you to please limit it to 2 minutes when testifying. So, Stephen, do we have from the public?
So we don't, we have no hands raised from the public, but we have one hand raised as, who's a panelist. I don't know, when is the best time?
So if there is no one to testify, we will now proceed to the discussion by the task force members regarding the presentation of Gail.
Yeah, the first person with
Okay.
their hand raised is Jared.
Okay, hi guys. Hi, thanks very much. So I just wanted to just really quick testimony. As it's come to our attention last week that the DOH has been working without any consultation to the industry, or to my knowledge, this task force for a while on a rule that would really be devastating to the industry. You know, the intent of the law that we all worked so hard to get passed a few years ago, which was 268, was established to make viable the hemp industry here in Hawaii, and that we could sell competitive products which people would want to buy, and so that our industry would thrive. But the problem is this rule looks to go through, and it absolutely undermines that intent, if not potentially finishing this industry off. So I just wanted to bring it to the attention of everyone that this rule will be a maximum of 1 milligram THC per serving. And what's being discussed is 5 or 10 milligrams per package for any edible format. Now, these limits will be among the strictest rules in the entire country, and will be pretty much impossible to comply with using the remediation technology that's available within the state. If anyone here wants to sell products to customers that they actually want to buy, or sell bulk extracts to manufacturers who will make those products for the local market, it's essential that we get some input on this this situation. THC is one of the most therapeutic cannabinoids. It needs to be understood that it has lots of uses beyond simply getting high, and this is why low dose full spectrum THC products are overwhelmingly what customers want to buy in the 35 states that our company has presence in. When I'm talking about low THC, what I'm talking about is a minimum of 2.5 milligrams per serving. You know, package limit wise, having less than 20 units per package, which is 50 milligrams of THC, isn't economically viable to produce. It's hugely wasteful of plastic, and anything below this is certainly not competitive on the national market. It wouldn't even be really worth making. Certainly not to compete with other products that are out there. We understand that there may be a potential DOH allowance in full spectrum tinctures, but I can tell you with certainty that the market for tinctures isn't even a fraction of what it was 2 years ago. You know, compared to 2 years ago when we were making tinctures, when that was one of our main businesses, you know, that was 80% of our sales, and it's less than 10% now. You know, it's a rapidly declining category that simply the customers just aren't looking for anymore. And so it's really important that you know, we have a reasonable THC limit on edible products. You know, we've thrown away thousands of bottles of tinctures over the past year because they simply just go out of date. We don't see evidence that the tincture market is going to turn around. So this obvious trend, you know, towards low THC edibles, you know, it's confirmed in the financial statements of all the major hemp manufacturers. Everybody's moving towards edibles, and you know, allowing this kind of a full spectrum edible, you know, in a reasonable package size is not only essential, but it's an existential requirement for a viable industry. You know, regarding selling bulk extracts wholesale for the farmers, you know, to meet this unprecedented near zero THC threshold for Hawaii manufacturers, you know, all the local hemp will need to be sent to the mainland to be remediated basically to zero. And this will obviously increase the cost of manufacturing. And, you know, with the high cost of manufacturing here, it wouldn't make any economic sense to then send that remediated extract back to Hawaii to then be manufactured. You know, and the harsh processes that are involved in that remediation, you know, stripping everything out of it to make it zero THC produces a product that customers really aren't even looking for. So it just doesn't make sense for companies to buy Hawaiian extracts, you know, and ultimately it's going to be made on the mainland if it goes down this road, you know, and of course, obviously it affects the quality. So what we're simply just trying to raise the point here is that we just need reasonable rules to counter the online market, you know, which is going to overwhelm the Hawaiian hemp market. And we just need age controls so kids can't buy it. And that's ultimately what the purpose of it all is. You know, we need a minimum 2.5 milligrams of THC per serving, to be clear. And that's it. Simple, done. And that's the solution we need. But it just doesn't seem like anyone's really asking us what we think. And so I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, that this rule is coming unless it's intercepted or addressed in some way. And that's everything I got to say, unless somebody has a question for me.
The next person with their hand raised is Gail.
Yeah, so I guess this would be public testimony or member of the task force. I'm not sure what it is, but it's a comment on what Jared's saying. And the intent of the task force, and we know because we helped draft the legislation and supported it all the way through, was to create opportunities for conversations with agencies. So we wouldn't be in the position that we're exactly in today, that we would be getting a heads up before there were these rules coming down that could have such an impact. And Jared's right, obviously right, in terms of his economic assessment, what this is going to be. Farmers can't even afford to send our crops to Kauai from Big Island for processing. They're the only facility right now in the state that I'm aware of that has a processing permit that can potentially strip out all the THC. So if we can't even afford to send it to the one facility there, we're dead in the water in terms of being able to compete in the largest growing sector of the cannabinoid market. So I guess I'm reinforcing what Jared is saying, but I'm also saying we've been having these meetings now for a couple months, and thank you all. I mean, this is what we've needed, are these conversations.
Gail,
But
I don't want to interrupt you, Gail, but we could put that in our agenda for the future meeting. So we need to give notice if we want to discuss that on detail.
Oh, I guess I was
with
testifying as a
Jared's,
member of the public, and yeah, I'm just saying it feels a little disingenuous that the agencies have not brought this up when we've had numerous task force meetings, and the purpose was this conversation, being able to have a conversation about it. And even if they didn't want to have a conversation, they could at least alert us and go, hey, you know what, we're doing this and we don't want to talk to you about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail.
Thank you.
The next person with their hand raised is Brittany Neal.
I was just wondering if there is a draft available of the proposed rules that the Department of Health is working on. What's that?
I'm sorry, we're supposed to be commenting about Gail's testimony about the Hawaii Hemp Farmers Association. The comments are supposed to be directed towards her presentation.
Isn't that public
Okay, well,
testimony?
she brought up in the conversation or the presentation that there were these new rules. So I'm just wondering if there's a way to get a hold of them so I could view them and everybody else could. That's all. It was part of her presentation that she brought it up. So that's why I'm mentioning it. Thank you.
Thank you, Britt.
There is a hand raised from the gentleman who was on the phone again. I don't recall his name.
Robert Benz?
Yeah, Robert, did you wish to say something?
Oh, no, can you hear
Robert?
me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Thank you. I would like to big mahalo to Gail because that was a great summary, and the big takeaway from that presentation for those of us that have been growing hemp for a long time, like Gail, and as mentioned earlier, this task force kind of needs to be more engaged with the farmers. So I hope that now go to move forward with our part of the PET task force. If we can have more than just one meeting, because we have so much business to conclude, and like it was mentioned, that is kind of part of her testimony, but it seems like something that we've had a whole task force meeting about, because I believe it was Greg last time, if the Department of Health wasn't involved, then we were just under the FDA. So we would be allowed to do far more. And as Jared mentioned in his testimony, the rapidly growing parts of the industry are more of the over 21. So if we could have, this is all such big topics. I'm up to even like 4 or 5 meetings a week because we have to do so much before the 30th. I would just make a motion that we have as much meetings and schedule them up so that we can, like in the testimony said, just get into this, get into all the things that the farmers really need. Mahalo.
Thank you, Robert. So we will put that in the next agenda. So anyone?
There are no other hands
No,
raised
okay.
from the public.
So if there is no one else to discuss about the presentation, so we will now move on to the next agenda. So the third item in our agenda is the presentation by Bob King. This is in regards to the use of industrial hemp seeds in making biodiesel and its benefits on the islands. I would like to turn it over to Bob King.
All right, thank you. Thanks for having me. Sorry, remind me again, how much time would you like me to spend on the presentation?
You can do it in 5 minutes, Bob. We'll appreciate it.
5 minutes, okay. We're gonna do the abbreviated version. Oops, hang on a second here. Okay, we'll do the quick version. So, yes, thanks for having me. I'm Bob King, president of Pacific Biodiesel. We have been in business for almost 30 years now in Hawaii, and doing making fuel and doing agriculture as well. So basically, started on Maui. Did some of the earliest biodiesel work in the nation. We're the oldest biodiesel company in the United States. Built a dozen or more plants in other states and countries along the way. Now we're 100% of our staff and investment is in Hawaii again. And our big plant that you're looking at here is on the Big Island, Hilo side, where we make 6 million gallons a year of distilled biodiesel for use in cars, trucks, tractors, boats, and our biggest customers are power generation at this time. Our customers are looking for more fuel, so we're looking for more feedstock to make the biodiesel out of, which has brought us to farming. So for maybe almost 10 years, over 10 years now, we've been playing with different crops, oil crops in Hawaii, and because our current feedstock is almost exclusively used cooking oil and animal fats. So we've got everything in Hawaii, and it's still about half the feedstock that goes into this plant. So we've got room to displace mainland the waste oils with local ag oils. The biodiesel plant's ready to do that. We just need the need ag to step up. So we like I said, we've been doing it a little bit for a long time, and now we're at 113 acres on Maui, and now we're moving to Kauai, which is this field that you can see, where we've got 100 acres in the ground right now. We'll harvest in another month of sunflower seeds, and then we're we hope to get 1,000 acres harvested in the first year on Kauai. So we're and how this applies to hemp, we'll get to in a minute here, because I think it's exciting. So we're on Gay and Robinson land out in Kamakani. That's where I'm at right now. We're using precision ag equipment, these big tractors and big spreaders, so that, or seeders, harvesters, GPS satellite navigation, auto track. We can plant 100 acres in a day and harvest 100 acres in a day. So we keep the labor down and either use natural irrigation, the rain, or center pivot irrigation, which is also low labor. So the thing about the type of farming we're doing is we have to get volume and keep the costs down, because we do need to compete with petroleum. And so this is how it's done. But we can't just grow one crop. We grow different kinds of crops, and we rotate them through. So sunflower is a nice one. People love to see that, and it's a great crop. It loves to be here. The first field we planted that's going to be harvested soon, we used no herbicides, no pesticides, also no fertilizer. So it's just seed and water. That was it. That's how we like to farm. We've never used herbicides or pesticides. And so when we get these rotations correct, it gets less and less tilling, more regenerative for the soil, and hopefully we're actually becoming carbon negative by sequestering more carbon than we're actually using for the few parts of the operation that use fossil carbon. All of our tractors run on 100% biodiesel. The mill that we're putting up in Kamakani is powered by the hydro. So very little petroleum involved in this operation at all. Like I said, rotation is really important. So it's going to be sunflower, safflower, camelina, canola. Hemp would be a natural product to put in there. The same planters that we use will plant it. The same combine that we use to harvest will harvest it. And we can make not CBD, which we have done before. And I'll step back a little bit. We did get one of the early permits on Maui. We put in a CO2 extractor, which we still have, but we're not using. Grew CBD, but by the time we got around to having a product, as you all know, the market's not there. So, and we were using it as a way to support the rest of the farm. So we just decided that we just have to support the farm a different way. This that we're talking about would be this type of hemp farming that we have the ability to do is the grain variety of hemp. So this would be open field hemp, harvested for grain and pressed in our same press, and making food, hemp seed oil, and fiber if there's enough call for the fiber portion of it, which hopefully there would be soon. So that's where we're at. We feel what everybody else does, that there's just this lack of urgency on the state in the early days to help us do anything. And there's obviously limited access to traditional capital. So in a production farming operation, you do need to buy a lot of expensive equipment. And then there's still a lot of confusion about what is hemp and what's hemp, true hemp, or not true hemp, the hemp that's for grain, the hemp that's for fiber, the CBD, the medicinal hemp, and marijuana. So it does cause a lot of confusion in the market. The biggest problem for us is that the kind of hemp that I would do next if I was going to do hemp next. By the way, this is our farm on Maui when we were growing CBD hemp with biodegradable plastic and all natural, and it was a lot of fun. But the next hemp that I would do would be open field hemp, and I am very cognizant of the fact that that's a piece that carries some there's conflict with other types. You can't have open field hemp next to a CBD or medicinal cannabis operations. It doesn't work. So with that in mind, I'm going to be cognizant of the farmers that are growing the other varieties, and we're going to have to hear that it's okay with the other farmers for us to do open field. Otherwise, I'll just continue growing other types of crops. But when that day comes, it's going to be fun. I think there's a good market for hemp seed oil that's gets away from a lot of the other challenges that the rest of the more medicinal varieties are facing. So I think I've gone over my 5 minutes already, but thank you.
Thank you, Bob. So we have public testimony.
There's first of all no one in person with their hand raised for testimony, and there's no one online.
Okay, if there's no one to testify from the public, we will proceed to the discussion of the with the task force members regarding the presentation on biodiesel sector.
Alex, you can go ahead.
Okay, can you guys hear me? Yep. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. King. I wanted to ask, is it true that the yield of sunflower usually are much higher than hemp? But what about the overall value of the entire crop, including the fiber, the stem, the biomass? Which one is higher? Is it hemp or sunflower? That's a question there.
Well, I don't think the oil portion of the hemp is going to be that much less than sunflower. We've got some pretty ideal conditions over here. Grown correctly, I think we can make it's going to be maybe within 10 or 20%. So it's not a significant difference. And the fact that it's a different crop is great. You can't plant the same one over and over. So having a rotation and the things that hemp can do for the ground that other crops can't. I think it's a viable rotation. The oil would be in my mind, would be the most valuable portion of it. We've spent a lot of money on a very high-end press that does food grade, high quality culinary oil. So it's basically a cold press, very controlled. So we get a just spectacular oil out of it. I'd love to run the hemp through that and see the aromas and the quality of the hemp seed oil, which I think would be spectacular and have a good market. Obviously, anything that's not perfect, straight into biodiesel. We have made biodiesel out of hemp oil before. It works perfect. The fiber portion is the next round, not as valuable. Does have to be processed really close to where it's grown because you don't want to move the mass very far. But there's a lot of future value in hempcrete and construction materials from hemp. So hopefully, and it's another set of equipment that we don't have. We can do hemp seed oil right now with what we have. The fiber side, we would need to invest further in more equipment.
Thank you.
There are no other hands raised.
Robert Benz? Oh, okay.
No, there are no other hands raised.
So if there is
Right, thanks for
more
having me.
discussion, Robert, you want to speak?
I could raise my hand if possible. Hello,
Okay,
this is Robert Benz.
go ahead.
I want to big mahalo to Bob. You're a huge inspiration because first, your wife was my tennis coach when I was like 5th grade, and what you've done with Pacific Biodiesel has been amazing, and you've got a lot of expertise here with the large scale hemp farming, and you're right on about the open field. There's so much we could talk about because there's the seed cake in the Hemp Feed Coalition. They're working on being able to sell use the seed cake. It's not right now, it's not allowed to be used, but is there any way before August 30th we could have another task force meeting where we just go over these kind of issues? Because I know it's a short amount of time to get some input to the legislature model.
Thank you. I don't think I have the meal, the press cake, the meal is obviously a valuable part of all the seeds, and yeah, lots and lots to do with that. I can't speak to the meeting side of that. That's you guys. Thank you for the comments though.
Please. Okay, yeah, I'd like to call up Char O'Brien.
Okay, thank you. So thank you to both Bob and Gail. And thank you to everyone for volunteering to be on this task force. It's an important job that you have. And our primary purpose as consultants, Megan and I, is to help this task force to help you make the recommendations that the state is looking for. How do we move forward with a hemp industry on the islands? So Megan and I have listened to your concerns. We have spoken to experts and done our own research. Today, we have some recommendations for a preliminary vote. In an effort to expedite this whole process, if the majority of you agree on a particular recommendation, then we will write it up in the format needed by the state and show you the final recommendation at our next meeting. Does that seem reasonable? So I know that everyone that's on this call, just a second, Megan, is passionate about the ability of the hemp industry, both industrial hemp and cannabinoid hemp, to benefit our state. We need to reduce the import of construction materials as well as fossil fuels while supporting food security and a circular economy. That's what everybody here believes. I'm certain of that. So I'm asking you to please trust that Megan and I, and more importantly, all of the state employees we have worked with, are doing our best to make sure that everyone's needs get met. So we'll start with our general fiber recommendations and move on to construction materials and then to cannabinoids. We were hoping to have a little more time today, but we think we can get through quite a bit. The rest of our recommendations will follow at the next meeting.
Char, we'll talk about that in the next agenda. So if we can finish first, if there's still discussion regarding Bob's presentation, is there anyone from the public who would like to testify and from the members? If not, we will go on to the next agenda, which Char just mentioned. So this next agenda is the 4th item for today. This is the presentation of our consultants on their findings and recommendations regarding the infrastructure needs of the Hawaii hemp farmers and the hemp industry, including any proposed legislation to the task force. So I'm turning it over to Char O'Brien and Megan Villa for their presentation. Char, you can continue.
Thank you. Thank you. So the way this works is that we make recommendations to you based on what you have said to us, and then you vote on it, and then that becomes what actually goes to the state. So we can't make recommendations on our own. It has to come through you as the public task force. So to create an industry, a hemp industry, we need distributed small decorticators on each major island. We need an initial commercial scale processing plant so that we can split the hurd from the fiber. And we need a large scale cultivation potential. So next slide, yeah. So here we have 3 recommendations in the general fuel, general fiber. Okay, so first, small decorticators. We're recommending that a group of equipment for hemp processing be placed with each one of 3 different nonprofits on 3 different islands, Oahu, Maui, and Big Island. We're recommending a no-till drill, just a small 5-foot drill, a roller crimper, a formation ag mobile decorticator, a used hay rake, a used small hay baler, and a used side sickle hay mower. Should be around between $60,000 and $70,000 investment for each island. So can we get a vote on that, June? And then let me reiterate that then if you agree that we should go forward with this recommendation, we will write it up formally for the state and you can review it again next time. But I want to make certain that people agree with our recommendations before we go writing everything up in hope that you will agree with it. And June, how do you vote? Or Andrew?
Sure, can you just present first, and then we'll have the next, the decision making is on the next item in our agenda. So this one is just your presentation, discuss the findings and recommendations.
All right. Next slide then is a commercial scale decorticator. We recommend grants, loans, next slide, loans, loan guarantees, tax incentive, expertise, etc., open to public competition to support the building and operation of a 1.5 ton per hour decorticator plant for processing hemp straw into hurd and bast fiber on the island of Kauai for shipment of hurd to all islands. The total cost of this will be somewhere around $5.3 million in grants, loans, and tax incentives. And that should be, there's another slide here we're missing.
Megan, I was gonna say, I think when you did full screen, it might have, or whoever's doing this shared screen, when they made full screen, I think it jumped to another window and you'd have to share that screen. Okay, yeah.
So that's the one that I just read. And then the next slide is we need to, as Bob said, we need to get large scale hemp cultivation going. So we recommend a combination of grants and loans be given to the not-profit, for-profit partnership of Friends of Waimanalo and Ohana Nui Ventures for the farm equipment needed for the cultivation of hemp and cover crops on the island of Kauai. This grant and or loan should be between $360,000 and $600,000 for the purpose of buying a combination of new and used equipment. Slide 5. So I'm jumping to the construction industry. And we're going to further recommend that there be grants given for developers of hempcrete blocks so that we can expedite the building industry. Another grant for prefab hempcrete panels for homes and apartments to develop those. And the third one to develop insulation in rigid 4x8 sheets made in Hawaii from the fiber. We don't want to make, it'd be lovely to make the really fancy fiber, but that takes a lot more processing. So we can begin with the rigid fiber. So now we're going to cannabinoid section and Megan's going to present.
Can you hear me? We recommend that the state subsidize one facility at Kohala Center, on the Big Island, that cannabinoid farmers can use to do their own processing once they're certified in the use of the lab. We recommend that the state subsidize the shipping of the dried flower to the Big Island as well as farmer travel to level the playing field. The CBD processing facility, The cost for ethanol extraction system made in China would cost roughly, Shar, do you want to chime in? Is this the total?
400,000, 400,000.
Okay, roughly 400,000.
That's with the building and that sort of thing.
And again, this recommendation is contingent on the ability of a cannabinoid task force being able to lay out the rest of the concerns that they may have about the current laws and regulations, which you'll see in the next slide, or 2 slides away. It should be noted that toll processing already does exist on the island of Kauai, where Kauai Hemp Co. is fully licensed and legally set up to safely process cannabinoid hemp for other farmers. Yet we found that not many farmers are using this service. And from what we've learned from members of the task force is that they're nervous about the laws governing transportation of cannabinoid hemp, as well as worried about the expense. Again, we recommend that the state subsidize the extra transport and processing fees to help grow the cannabinoid industry in the islands and address any concerns. These can be hashed out in the Hemp Drive Cannabinoid Task Force that may be impeding farmers from processing their hemp there. And then lastly, I just want to speak a little deeper into this than what's on the slide. We've spoken to, I think, every single one of you guys. We've heard all of your concerns. And what we've realized is that, we were tasked with focusing on infrastructure. But a lot of the concerns have been around rules and regulations. And I just want you to know that you've all been heard. And we appreciate you. And this will be in the report. We're going to address a lot of these just so that they're in writing and that it's out there. But after talking about this for a while, we really do believe that there should be a hemp-derived cannabinoid-specific task force put in place. Because I know you guys have about a month and a half left until the task force is disbanded. And there's a lot that you guys need to talk about outside of infrastructure. And I don't know if that's enough time to get everything that you guys really need to be heard. And so we're suggesting that this hemp-derived cannabinoid task force be formed so that all of these concerns can be addressed in one specific place, because industrial hemp and hemp grown for cannabinoids it's very different. I know it's an agricultural crop and I get all of that, but the way the rules and regulations surrounding the 2 different types of plants are very, very different. And we really don't want to impede the progression of industrial hemp, nor do we want to impede the progression of cannabinoid hemp. So we feel that by being able to have a separate cannabinoid task force, a lot of these concerns can be addressed, rules can be written, data can be brought forth. I've had trouble getting data to back up a lot of the concerns. And I really think that by having a separate task force, this will just be able to address a lot of these concerns that you guys have. So for now, that's our top recommendations for the first 3 sectors. And then because we knew we wouldn't have a ton of time to go through everything, we were hoping that next week we can address the remaining sectors and our recommendations. But if you guys have any questions or feedback on what we just spoke about, if you want me to go back through the slides, I can, or we can open it up for questions.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Megan and Char. So we'll take the public testimony first.
Yes, so for public testimony, I see there's a Marcus. If you could please state your name and organization, if any.
Hello, everybody. My name is Marcus Serrano. I work with Mo Green, just as an independent entrepreneur. And I think that it is very important, just to echo what Megan just said, it is very important that there's clarity behind the type of farming that will be done with hemp, because I think everything being bundled up together with the cannabinoid farming versus the industrial version of hemp, there's multiple different results at each point. And I think that a lot of people kind of bundle everything in with the traditional marijuana or just the cannabinoid farming. I think it is very important that as you guys move forward with this, that the 2 are separated from each other and the results of the industrial hemp farming is clearly outlined. You just had Brian King, one of the very influential people in biodiesel. Hawaiian Electric is doing a big effort to even establish more biodiesel generators out there. And so this wouldn't have any same repercussion that a cannabinoid industry would for that type of farming. So these are two separate like items that is being discussed here. And I think that the mistake that constantly keeps happening is the bundling of the two together. And in order to get clarity on what needs to be done for each of these have to be separated from each other. And so as a statement from the public to this committee is to ensure that there is clarity between what industrial farming purposes are for and what is cannabinoid farming uses for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. There are no other hands raised from the public.
Thank you. If there is no other person to testify from the public, we will proceed to the discussion with the task force members regarding the recommendation by the consultants.
Okay, up first, we have Brittany Neal.
So on the general fiber recommendations regarding the small decorticator and other equipment, such as the no-till drill, etc. I'm just wondering if it's placed with the Kohala Center on the Big Island, is the kind of proposed idea that a farmer could essentially check out the equipment and transport it to their farm? And if so, would special trailers be available to transport equipment, trucks to pull the equipment? I'm curious about how invasive species would be handled, because I don't want to bring equipment to my farm that has fire ants on it if I don't have fire ants on my farm and other pests and etc. So I'm just, I guess, wanting a little bit more clarification about how that would all work. And then as far as like the cannabinoid sector is concerned, I think it's a great idea to have a task force that is specific to the cannabinoid sector of hemp, because like you mentioned, there's so much more that needs to be discussed, and it's, just there's so many layers. And then I didn't get to see too much on the processing facility slide as far as the details. I think it talked about ethanol extraction specifically. And I'm just, I guess, wanting to see that slide again to be able to better understand what's proposed with regards to that processing facility. Thank you.
Okay, I think she wanted to just show that slide real fast. I guess while this is up in your reading, is it okay if we go to the next person?
One, yes.
So next up was Jared.
Hi, guys. All right. Thank you very much. I fully agree with what Megan was saying about a separate cannabinoid task force. Although I appreciate this is a DOA forum, obviously what the DOH intends to do will undermine what's being discussed here on the cannabinoid side of things. So following what Brittany was saying, we really want to just see in detail what those rules are and what's being discussed so that we can see some interagency collaboration, so that the intent of the legislature is honored and it's not done in a silo. At a minimum, any new rulemaking really should be paused until we've had an opportunity to bring some public or industry input into this process before the damage is done. I don't quite understand what's the rush to change things. So I just wanted to reiterate that point and support what Brittany was saying.
Thank you. We're gonna jump over to actually Robert, who was on the phone. I saw him.
Okay.
So Robert, did you want to say something?
Aloha. Mahalo. It's good to have the people that aren't familiar with growing hemp, but I I would have to vote no on all of those recommendations because according to Andrew, my understanding was the hemp task force was supposed to engage with the farmers, and there was very little to almost no engagement. And I don't think it is proper to have the task force call out a particular entity to be funded. And I don't think it's proper to have us voting on things that we just heard about just now. I think we should have another meeting where we can go into this, and I believe it was the hemp task force that was supposed to come up with the recommendations to the legislature. So it should be, we look at what the task force recommended, but we have another meeting and we dig down into it, because the intent of this task force is to be farmer driven, and a lot of things that this task force went over, if they were already hemp farmers, we would have wasted time on, and we would be digging down to what we really need. So other than we just need a completely new task force, but it's my understanding that it's the task force that is supposed to make the recommendations. But as those recommendations stand now, I would vote no on down the line. Well,
Thank
Hey,
you.
Robert, this is Andrew. I just wanted to clarify. So the consultants are making their recommendations to the task force. The task force is tasked with making their own recommendations, though. So at this point, we're just discussing what the consultants came up with. You guys don't have to vote up or down on this right now if you don't want to. And then, you know, we'll give you the slides. You can take it back and have another meeting and decide whether, you know, in detail, whether you like these, whether you want to change them. If you want to have other discussions like you've been asking for, then yeah, you guys can have as many discussions as logistically are possible and come up with your complete own recommendations if you want. So you are not bound by these recommendations. These are just the recommendations that the consultants came up with.
Mahalo, Andrew. I really appreciate your testimony and the clarification. I definitely, I'm not sure if other members have to call for more meetings, but I think just the farmers talking with your office and me for a meeting, we can get a lot done. And I know there's been a lot of communication and you've been very, very helpful. So I really appreciate it. Mahalo.
Okay. Thank you. Up next, I'd like to call up Tai Chen.
Hi.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey everyone, my name is Tai Cheng. President of Hemp Hawaii here on Oahu. Also help run one of the medical cannabis dispensaries here on Oahu. I think they're really good recommendations to try to start the hemp industry in Hawaii. I think the upfront capital costs of that heavy equipment will be, you know, very helpful for farmers. One thing I do ask the consultants to look at is potentially looking at whether or not medical dispensaries have the equipment that's necessary to provide for processing of CBD. The reduction in shipping between the islands, because we're going to try to set up, I guess, you know, specific islands to have the specific capabilities. There may be, you know, ethanol extractors and CO extractors that are readily available and can be told for hemp product. That's it.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to call up Scotty Wong.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on Brittany had asked a question, and I'm not sure if Shar or Megan were going to answer it, but it was the question about the equipment, such as tractors, harvesters, being on one farm. Can other farmers use it? Is there going to be a low boy to transport it, and also taking care of any cross-contamination. But that's something that Friends of Waimanalo, our nonprofit arm of Ohanahui Ventures, has already planned for and done. In fact, today I'm waiting to drive one of my farmers to go pick up another tractor and possibly 2 more tractors with a lowboy, and to use it for other farmers we're recruiting on Oahu to farm hemp with us and help them through the process of getting their USDA license to grow hemp on their food farms. Because we are in discussions with a group that wants us to grow 4,000 acres of hemp for a bio feedstock for energy. So that's why I appreciate Bob's talk today. But we do need more farmers because there's not 4,000 acres of land on Oahu ready to go. So our thing is to recruit other farmers to do this. But the question that Brittany had asked was taking the tractor, and that's what we do as our nonprofit is we train people to drive the tractors. We have a guy that certifies people in farm equipment, driving it, our equipment. You want to use it on another farm, we'll put it on our lowboy, we'll take it to your farm. But also one of our early classes we did 2 years ago with our partner is dry ice blasting. Our dry ice blasting partner cleans military vehicles in foreign countries and here in Hawaii to decontaminate the vehicles as they go island to island, because then it gets rid of the red ants. That's how the military does it. Our partner actually does that, and we've trained 5 guys to do it 2 years ago. So that's something that could be a solution for what Brittany had brought up about taking tractors to different farms. We have pressure washers with solutions, organic, that can clean, pressure wash all of our vehicles before it leaves our farm. But also if it's something that's of concern, we do have dry ice blasters on island that can help with that. And one other question was, I heard the recommendation of having the big decorticator on Kauai. We also have, like I was mentioning, this big job that can be on Oahu. If that can be left open, there is a big job that a decorticator would be needed or processing on Oahu. So anyway, I know we didn't vote on anything yet, but we could talk about that later. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
So there's a couple more we want to ask again. Is that okay, or? Oh, okay, yeah. I guess Brittany, you had your hand raised again.
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment in response to what Ty had asked with regards to whether hemp can be processed in dispensaries using the equipment that they have already existing. And I would just like to testify or get it on the record that as a USDA hemp farmer, I don't want to be lumped in with medical marijuana or recreational marijuana, which are federally illegal. I think it's very important that we keep hemp separate from those things. And I don't want to be pulled into it in any way. So I just wanted to get that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Gail has her hand raised.
Yeah, thanks, you guys. I know you put a lot of thought into this. Just real quick. Well, I know I'll need to think about this before I can vote today, because I think there's a lot of good questions and things being brought up. But was there a reason you guys went with ethanol instead of CO2? Was it for scaling reasons, or?
It was for safety and for expense.
Okay.
But we also are kind of kicking it down the road to the new task force, the hemp, the exacting hemp, cannabinoid hemp task force, because it's just too big a process. It's just too many questions, and it really needs to be done in a specific task force. So
yeah, especially if the new rules prevail, because we'll have to basically be able to have to denude everything. But yeah, thank you. And then real quick, so did the Kohala Center confirm they'd be, I mean, not that they have to, is it just an idea, or they confirmed that they'd be?
It's just such a wonderful nonprofit that's right there on the big
Oh
island.
yeah, no, they're great. They're great. I just didn't know if you'd had conversation with them yet or not. Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. So if there are no other discussion on this agenda, we will move on to the next to the last item. This is the decision making by the task force members regarding the recommendations from the hemp consultants. I would like to ask again if you are, going to vote or not. And just for clarification, we are only talking about the three sectors here. The first, the general fiber sector, second, the building sector, and the third is the cannabinoid sector. There are still three other sectors that the consultants will be presenting in the next meeting. So that those are the biofuel sector, the grain food sector, and the general sector.
So I need clarification on what it means if we vote. I mean,
We are
what does
asking
that
you if
actually
you-
mean? What's the outcome of that? I mean, it sounds like we're giving authority to something if we vote on it. Because I know for myself, I need to think more about this. And so what does it mean if we vote? Like we like it in general, or this is the recommendation that's going into the report?
Hey, Gail, it's Andrew. So you're whatever you want to make a motion and vote on is up to you folks at this point. So the decision-making item that was noticed on the agenda is for the presentation. So you guys can take up any recommendations that were specifically made in the presentation. You can vote to not take up those recommendations now, to review them and to do it later. But you guys would have to make your own motion and second a motion and then vote on it for any of the recommendations. So for example, if you like the general fiber sector, it might be helpful if we could get the screens back on, just or the presentation back on, just so people can know what they're voting on. If you like the small decorticator idea, then you would make a motion to include the small decorticator recommendation in the final task force recommendations. And again, because it's the first time you guys are seeing this, you don't have to do this right now. You can do this in a follow-up meeting, and we'll give you the slides to take a look at.
Well, then I recommend that we move to consider this and send us the slides, but we won't vote, but we'll vote on it on the next meeting, however it's agendized.
That's fine.
I second that.
So just a small legal plug too, if everyone can remember that we are sunshined. So any discussion that you folks have on these recommendations has to be in view of the public, which means has to be at a meeting. So you can't, with the exception of the exceptions that Travis listed at the beginning, you can't really discuss them amongst yourselves. So take the slides home and take a look at them, make your own notes, and then bring it back at the next meeting and have a full discussion on Zoom. But if that is the motion on the floor, then somebody can second it and you guys can vote on it.
Second by Robert Benz.
Okay. So again, is there a motion to vote?
I think the motion was to delay the vote and do it
And
at
it's
the next meeting.
so if it's
Because I think people might want to have the opportunity to review it. And then there are some good points that were brought up by Scotty and other people. There might be slight amendments we might want to make, and I don't know that we're all prepared to
so
make
Gail,
them.
you can make a motion on that if that is what you want, and then
No.
somebody can second that. And then we can put that in the vote, the decision making in the next agenda, if that is the wishes of everyone.
Okay, folks, I think there was a motion and it was seconded. So if you want to take the vote, June, I think you could do either a roll call vote or just an.
Okay, so we will have a roll call voting. Those who are in favor, can please say yes or no? So we have Gail Baber. Is it yes or no?
Yes, I'm in favor of the motion that we get to consider this and discuss it and vote on it at the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, Robert Benz,
Aye.
is that a yes?
Yes.
Tai Cheng,
Yes.
okay, Jared,
Yes.
it's Janine. Janine? Janine Holstein. Next is Gloria Ilagan. Is that a yes or no?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Kyle Young. Yes or
Yes.
no? Okay. Ching Lee,
Yes.
Michele Matsuda. Sorry. Jediah McRoberts.
Yes.
Thank you. Liliana Napoleon. Liliana is not here. Okay. Brittany Neal.
Yes.
Okay. Rusty Top
Yes.
and Scotty Wong.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, the votes. So it will be carried next next meeting, okay? So on next meeting also, we'll have this the other three sectors that was not here. So we will also include that. Okay, so the recommendations from the okay, so the next meeting is not yet finalized, so we will inform the task force members once the meeting is determined. If there is no objection, we will now adjourn the meeting. And this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you everyone for attending. Have a nice day.
Thank you.